Imagine this. The golden sands of ancient Egypt shimmer under a scorching sun. Pyramids rise majestically, priests chant to Ra, and slaves haul massive stone blocks up wooden ramps. But suddenly, a thunderous rat-tat-tat echoes through the desert. Not the clatter of chisel and hammer, but the unmistakable roar of machine guns. In this alternate history, the Pharaoh's army doesn't wield spears or bronze blades. They command modern firearms, thousands of years ahead of their time. How would the world change if ancient Egypt, the cradle of civilization, had machine guns? Let's start with the basics. Ancient Egypt was one of the most advanced civilizations of its time, known for engineering, architecture, and organized governance. But their military technology was relatively primitive: chariots, bows, axes, and shields. Now imagine, it's 1250 BCE. Pharaoh Ramses II rules the Nile. But instead of archers lined along the riverbanks, he commands an elite army armed with AK-47s, M16s, and mounted heavy guns. With this kind of firepower, Egypt's dominance over the ancient world would be absolute. No rival, not the Hittites, not the Nubians, not even the mighty Mesopotamians, could withstand their modern weaponry. Battles like Kadesh, which historically ended in a stalemate, would instead become one-sided massacres. Thousands of bronze-armed soldiers charging on horses would fall before even reaching Egyptian lines. The pharaoh's empire would expand far beyond the Sinai, pushing deep into Europe, across Africa, and into Asia. Egypt wouldn't just be an ancient civilization. It would become the world's first global empire. Machine guns require more than bullets. They demand logistics, manufacturing, and ammunition supply. Let's assume Egypt also discovered early metallurgy, allowing them to forge brass and gunpowder. The temples of Ra would double as weapons factories, producing belts of ammo instead of scrolls and statues. Priests who once prayed to gods would now oversee production lines of death. Imagine artisans carving hieroglyphs not on tomb walls, but on metal gun barrels, each inscribed with blessings for accuracy and protection in battle. Machine guns would change Egypt's entire social structure. Soldiers would become the highest class, second only to the pharaoh himself. And pharaohs would be seen not just as divine rulers, but as gods of war, capable of unleashing unstoppable destruction. Now let's talk about the rest of the ancient world. Neighboring civilizations, Greece, Babylon, and China, would witness Egypt's overwhelming power with awe and terror. Their bronze swords would shatter under automatic fire. Within decades, Egypt would dominate all trade routes, controlling access to gold, spices, and the Mediterranean Sea. The Library of Alexandria, founded centuries later, might instead be built during this time, becoming a technological hub far ahead of its age. Egyptian engineers, under royal command, might start experimenting with mechanical engines, primitive aircraft, and metal chariots powered by gunpowder. We might even see proto-industrial revolution emerge 3,000 years early. The modern world, as we know it, could have started before the birth of Christ. But this kind of power always has a price. Ancient Egypt was a deeply religious society. Life revolved around Mat, the principle of balance, order, and harmony. Machine guns would shatter that order. Wars would become catastrophic, wiping out entire cities in minutes. Instead of celebrating harvest festivals, Egypt might hold ceremonies mourning the destruction of rival kingdoms. The pharaohs might face rebellion, not from enemies abroad but from within. Farmers and slaves, exposed to such devastating weapons, might begin questioning the divine order. If a man can hold a weapon that kills hundreds in seconds, does he still need gods to control his fate? Philosophy and religion would evolve far sooner. Egypt might develop early forms of atheism or humanism, seeing power as something forged by technology, not faith. With machine guns as the spark, Egypt could easily progress into mechanized warfare. Gunpowder could lead to cannons, tanks, or even primitive flying devices. Imagine the pyramids, not as tombs but as command centers, their interiors filled with mechanical contraptions, maps, and weapon stockpiles. The Sphinx might not guard secrets of eternity, but strategic blueprints of military dominance. By 500 BCE, Egypt could control the entire known world, and might even explore territories across oceans. They could discover the Americas thousands of years before Columbus, and with their technology colonize them effortlessly. History itself would be rewritten. The Roman Empire might never exist. Democracy might never rise in Greece. Instead, humanity would live under a single, immortal empire, forged by bullets, not beliefs. But this early industrialization would bring severe consequences. Gunpowder residue, metal smelting, and battlefield pollution would contaminate the Nile, Egypt's lifeline. Famine and disease might follow, triggered by the same technology that secured their dominance. Culturally, Egypt's art and architecture would transform. Instead of murals of gods and pharaohs, walls might depict weapons, explosions, and soldiers as symbols of power. The Book of the Dead might be replaced by manuals on warfare, a society obsessed with control rather than the afterlife. Even mummification could take on a darker meaning. Instead of preserving kings, they might preserve fallen soldiers, heroes immortalized as national idols. Here's the twist: technology doesn't always last. Egypt's knowledge was often secret, passed only to priests and royal engineers. If one dynasty collapsed or a massive rebellion occurred, that knowledge could vanish overnight. Without global communication, other civilizations wouldn't inherit their inventions. By 1000 BCE, the empire might crumble under its own weight, destroyed by the very weapons it created. The desert would swallow its steel, and future archaeologists would find metal fragments buried beneath pyramids, wondering what they were. It would be the greatest mystery in human history. How did the ancients build these, and why did their world fall apart? If Egypt had machine guns, human civilization would develop on a completely different timeline. Wars would accelerate innovation. Philosophers would emerge sooner, exploring questions about ethics, artificial intelligence, and fate, thousands of years before their time. By the year 500 AD, humans might already be traveling to the stars. The modern world could exist 1,500 years earlier. But along with progress would come early extinction risks. From overuse of gunpowder to environmental collapse, civilization might rise and fall long before we ever appeared. So what if ancient Egypt had machine guns? They might have conquered the world, built a global empire, and advanced humanity centuries ahead, but at the same time, they might have destroyed the balance of nature, spirituality, and progress. Technology is only as good as the hands that wield it, and in a world that worshipped gods of sun and death, the gun might have become the new god itself. The pyramids would still rise, but not as tombs. They'd be monuments of power, built to remind the future that no empire, however advanced, can escape the weight of its own ambition. So if time could rewrite itself, would you want ancient Egypt to have machine guns, or are some secrets better left buried beneath the sands of time? If you enjoyed this journey through history's biggest what if, hit subscribe and explore more impossible scenarios that might just change how you see the world.